click here.
Kevin, ready?
Yep.
We're about to go live.
Do I need to be present?
If you want to be in it.
Hey, how'd you like the name?
I love it. But hey, it's Jase, and we are live. Welcome to episode 2 of Speakeasy with Jase. I'm super excited about today's episode for multiple reasons, not the least of which is my awesome guest, who you guys are going to get to know a little bit better in a moment. And really what these calls are about are teaching you how to use the number one fastest way to grow your business, which is public speaking, in order to grow your business and make a bigger impact and fulfill your God-given mission. I believe that you have a God-given mission that only you can do, and it can be fulfilled and funded through your business. So in short, what we like to say is when you learn what we have to share, you can make a difference and make a whole lot of money. So welcome to Speakeasy with Jase, and my guest today is the one and only Kevin Harris, and I am so excited to tell you about Kevin. We met. We both have been brought in to be high-level coaches for someone else's core coaching organization. I'm teaching public speaking and sales, and Kevin is doing social media and productivity with them. And I just really clicked with this guy. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog is making noise. My dog is like, I used to hide his wet food under the dry food. So now when he eats, he has OCD. And of course he picked at the beginning of my Facebook Live to eat his food and move it all around with his nose. So Kevin, it just clicked with him right away. And he has just the right heart, and he's got a servant's heart. And so we're going to be working with him on his presentation. But before I go into what we're going to be doing, how about I give him a chance to say hi? So Kevin, please say hi and let people know who you are.
Hey guys, my name's Kevin Harris. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm just glad to be here. Like Jay said, we met at a high-level coaching event and just hit it off. He's a great guy, and he has a great program that I'm very interested in, dissecting my business a little bit.
Very cool. So tell everybody, so let's actually jump in. So here's what we're going to be doing is Kevin is going to start coaching in business coaching, and he has a background in coaching. So I saw him present, and I started coming up with ideas on how he can make a world-class presentation. So what you're going to see on this call today is me working with Kevin to put together a presentation that will get him standing ovations, that will make a huge impact in the world, and if not more important than all of that, will get him a whole ton of new clients so that he can make a bigger difference in the world. So Kevin, how about let's start by introduce yourself, kind of who you are, what you do, and fill us in.
Yeah, so basically my background is I was a trainer for a multi-billion-dollar retail store for, I actually was a regional manager for them and a regional trainer for many years. Then I got into football coaching. If you know about football in the state of Texas, it is extremely big. I was able to have some success there. Did that for about 15 years, won a state championship. Had all my seasons were winning seasons except the last one. I like to mention that. We always have those. But then I got into back into the business world. And that's where I kind of found my passion, my next passion, which was still coaching, but it was coaching business leaders. Specifically, it was in the real estate world, but then I started expanding. And so I have a lot of local clients and some masterminds here locally. But when I talked to Jase, I was talking to him about how I wanted to spread that more nationally. And we just started talking about it. Of course, what Jase does would definitely help. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got started.
Cool. So let's go into a little bit. To build any presentation, there's two main goals that I think need to be present. One is it always has to be built for the win of your audience. Everything we do as a speaker has to be built. Even if we're using the presentation to lead harvest, or we're using the presentation to develop clients or to actually make direct sales, we still have to build it for the win of the audience. If the presentation is not built for the win of the audience, then nothing is going to go right. The second part of the presentation that I think we really have to focus on up front is, what is the message that you want to bring to the world? Like, what truly is that thing that if you could bring this to the world, you would be making the world such a better place? So let's start with the first one. They're kind of, if you really think about it, they're kind of blended together. So what is it, Kevin, that if you could bring any message to the world, if you could make any impact you want to make, what would it be?
Gosh, it's over a lifetime. I'm 50 years old. I've been married 31 years. A lot of experiences back and forth. And one of the things that really God laid on my heart early on in my career was a passion for being able to impact people around me in a way that they could create their own hero. Because the reality is that every one of us have a hero deep inside us. Some people have figured out what that looks like in their life, and they've developed that, and they've become the hero in their own story. Some people just yearn to be that. It's why we play sports a lot of times. It's why we compete, because we want to be seen and we want to be acknowledged that we're doing things that are impacting others, and that's what a hero does. And so my passion is really to help people uncover, discover, and then implement those strategies that will allow their hero to come forth, and then they will realize the life that they really want to lead.
Okay.
And that was such a good story that Jase he's just bewildered. He's speechless.
I'm taking, and just so you guys know, I'm taking notes while we go through this. Also, if you're someone who's watching this online, please feel free to post questions. My assistant is logged in as me, Diane, and she'll note them, and then she'll get them to me, and I'll check the Facebook page from time to time. So if you guys have questions as we go, please feel free to ask them. Go ahead and put them in the Facebook post. And then, so Kevin, the presentation I was initially thinking about was more in the realm of the business coaching. So how does the Be Your Hero thing fit in the realm of business coaching?
Sure. So, the reality is for men and women, but really targeted more towards a lot of men, is part of being a hero in your own world is being able to provide, being able to be with your family when you need to be with them. And a lot of that has to do with how you work, and how you, in this particular instance, how you actually convert the business that comes your way. When we met, it was really me coming on as a productivity coach, but I call it more of a conversion coach, because the reality is in the world that we live in with social media, and if you're in sales or if you're in any type of service business, you're always looking for more clients, more deals, however you want to put it. And really the problem is never leads. It's never being able to contact, because you can walk out on the street, walk around the corner, and find people who you can talk to. It's about the conversion. It's about being able to have those conversations at a high level and being able to touch those people in a way that they want to do business with. They want to build a relationship. And whether that's whether it's sales or whether it's the service industry, the relationship is what it's all about. So it's learning how to convert those conversations.
Awesome. And I think this is probably one of the reasons that we clicked. Was I'm a big believer, like, in business, the lifeblood of business is cash, and cash comes from sales, i.e. conversions. If someone, and I can't tell you how many people I have seen that spend untold tens of thousands of dollars on learning business or internet marketing, and they don't know how to sell, and they're out of business, they're broke, and they're $50,000 to $100,000 worse than they were when they started off before they bought all that coaching, because they never learned how to convert and sell. Cool. Absolutely. So here's what I want to do. I want to brain dump it first. The idea I shared with you that I came up. So you guys that are watching, a little bit of cheating. I saw Kevin speak, and I just had these ideas. I was like, oh, this would be such a good presentation for him. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with you, and I'm going to draw out some ideas I've already had for you, and then I'll ask you more questions. So I'm really hoping that the screen share, we're pushing, so right now, just so you guys know what we're doing, Kevin and I are on a Zoom, and then we're pushing the Zoom to Facebook. So I hope it works. Never done this before. We're in completely uncharted territory here.
Dun, 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 dun.
And you know what? So can you see? Oh, you're not watching it on Facebook. Facebook's about to get like Facebook within Facebook. Yeah, totally. It's totally working. All right, awesome. So here's what I want to do. We can see. Do you know we can see when Kevin talks? Huh. Hold on. Evidently, you can see me when you talk. I don't know what that means.
Up in the corner, it looks like Facebook. There's a little window, and then you can also see the screen share.
It looks like maybe it's not clicking to you also. So, guys, like I said, this is our first time to run one like this. So give me a minute to make sure I get it fixed because I want to have Kevin on here as well. My mom messaged me. My mom is watching Kevin, so say hi to Diane.
Hi, Diane.
I had a radio show with my friends Andy and Tim back in the what was it? Late 90s when I was a realtor. It was called Your Home, and the only time slot we could get was Sunday at 11 a.m. And we're in Orlando, Florida, like Bible Belt area. Guess how many viewers or listeners we had Sunday at 11
Yeah, that's when everybody's wanting to listen about real estate.
Yeah, that's when everybody's at church. I think we had 2 ever, and we had 2 callers ever, both of which were my mom. Just one of them was my mom pretending to be someone else.
Good job, Mom.
I did not ask her to do that. It was so freaking funny. Okay. I'm trying to see if this is working, but it's not. I don't know.
Hey, Jase, earlier when you clicked onto it, it showed us both on my Facebook feed.
Did it? Okay, you know what it might be is now that I think when I go to the whiteboard, it's only going to show me is probably what's going to happen. But
well, what it did is it showed you, and then I said something, and it just flipped to me.
All right, perfect.
I think.
Good. So I'm going to go back to this whiteboard, and we'll see what happens. So now, first I want to brain dump the idea for the presentation I had for you guys. So thanks for being patient. So imagine this whiteboard. Can you see my mouse moving on here, Kevin?
Yes.
So imagine that this is your presentation, and the area in the middle here would stay white. Generally for presentations, I'm not a fan of like some people would do black background with white font. I think when you're in a big room with hundreds of people, it's very difficult to read. I think any other colors over a different color looks kind of childish. So as a rule for speakers, if you're watching and put together a presentation, yeah, sure, maybe you're only talking to 8 people, but I want you to build presentations that are built for 800 people so that you're moving towards that. So what I'm picturing is, Kevin, you're getting a custom template made, like a custom layout made for your keynote presentation or PowerPoint. And over here, the bottom part would be green. So this would be colored green. The middle would stay white. And then the top will be green. And then what we would have is it would look like a football field. So,
right.
So I don't know how to draw more than this. So I'm just going to do it in black instead of white. But it would be like, you know how they have the little tick marks on a football field?
It's called the
yardage. So maybe, you know, over here, maybe we're on the 20. And then the little tick marks, and then it would say like, you know, 30 or whatever. So I'm just going to riff, and we're recording. So if you don't catch all this stuff, Kevin, you'll catch it as we go.
Cool.
So it would look like that. You don't have the yardage marks here. So we'll say, all right, you got the ball. You're in the game. And a way to tie being in the game to something you just said, Kevin, was you said there are, let me put my notes. You said there are, I'm going to just share my whole desktop so you can see my share desktop. You said that there are no shortage of leads. It's about conversions. So what does that come to in a football scenario? What I hear is shortage of leads means you're not in the game. Having leads means you're in the game. So now the question is, how are we going to score? How are we going to go down the field and score? So I'm going to clear this just because it looks just kind of messy. So
yeah, Jason, and I would say, I mean, if you want to translate it to football, it'd be like saying that there's 1,000 different plays that you could run, but which is the right one? That's the conversion. What is the conversation that you're having that allows you to actually score in this instance?
All right, cool. See, right now, though, they're at the 20, and part of what we want to do in our presentation is dissuade people from having bad habits. So, and we're talking about being a hero. So I think what could happen for people is they want to score, and this is something I've seen over and over and over with entrepreneurs, especially the ones who go to events and buy big ticket coaching, is the coaches flash, you can make 50,000, 100,000, you can become a millionaire, all this stuff. But then what happens is the person gets in the mentality of, I have to score every time. I have to win every time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that just doesn't work. That is not an effective way to run the business. So let me ask you as a coach, and this is what I'd recommend you do when you come out in your presentation, is talk about, here's our goal. We got the ball, we're on the 20, and the goal of the game is to win the game. So how do you win the game? You score more points than your opponents. So that means you want to score as much as you can. You want to limit your opponents as much as you can. But I would take it out of the context of their opponent being their quote-unquote competition. I personally don't want to foster a world where company A is overly concerned with company B. I just want company A to be huge and successful and trust in abundance, and kind of let company B do their own thing. So what I would consider the opponent is our own mistakes, is our own fall downs, is our own lack of productivity.
So the vernacular that I would use is that our opponents, because I'm 100% with you on that. Our opponents are not anybody externally. Our opponents are our habits, hang-ups, and history.
Perfect.
So it's our own habits or our routines, our hang-ups, which is our self-talk, and then our history, which is our track record. That's really what we're always fighting against. That's our true opponent.
Cool. So I would come out and talk about that and say, so how do we win the game? We want to score. So we have the ball at the 20, and here's where we're going to start eliminating some of the bad habits that they might have. We got the ball at the 20, so if we want to score, we could try and throw a long bomb and get an 80-yard touchdown, which is what many entrepreneurs do, is they try and just get rich quick. But let me ask you as a coach, Kevin, if someone goes to score an 80-yard touchdown every play, how well is that going to work?
It's like shooting from half court in basketball. It's only going to work a very low percentage. And I would say, because we are kind of brain dumping, instead of saying, what is the right play to allow you to score? Why don't we change it to, what is the right play to allow you to get a first down?
So you jumped ahead. So that's what comes next. First, what we want to do is we have to address the underlying beliefs that they have and get them out of the get-rich-quick mode. Now, and just to be clear, you guys, if he's doing this presentation in Australia or New Zealand or something, personally, I still think it will play because he could quickly and easily explain the theories and, the outcome of football. People will get it. The way we're going to build it, people will understand it really easily. So first we have to say, what happens when you go for the 80-yard pass? You're probably not going to get it, and you're really not going to get anywhere, and now you're just fighting bad habits, and your opponent has the ball. So instead, our true goal is, if you want to say that again, what's our true goal?
It's to get a first down.
So in other words, what we want to do is move the ball down the field so we can and these are the words I would say, if you have the right plays, you can rely upon it. And then,
and I would even say, if you want to, and again, I'm just thinking, but really, as a coach, depending on your philosophy of coaching, really your goal is to get 4 yards. Because if you get 4 yards 3 times, it's a first down.
Right. So now, instead of oh my gosh, I got to score an 80-yard touchdown every play, now their goal simply becomes, all I have to do is get 4 yards. And, not everybody can get 4 yards every time, but what we're building towards is for these business owners to realize 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, first downs, first downs, first downs. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so then what I'm picturing is, as we teach, so now what we're going to do is, well, let me ask you, Kevin, in order to keep moving the ball down the field and get 4 yards at a time, what do you need? What do you need to move the ball down the field and get 4 yards at a time?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
I'm really asking it open-ended to see what you'll say. But literally,
okay.
let's pretend, man, I'm trying to make this football look better, and it just looks horrible. It's really hard to draw on this.
It's not getting better, Jase.
It looks like a poop, doesn't it? Let's just erase it, and I will just put the word football. You want to get the football.
You're just going to type it out. There you go.
That's much better. So let's pretend, and this is where sometimes you guys building from nothing. And Kevin, just keep in mind, as I'm sharing some of the stuff, it's because I want the people viewing on Facebook to get the concept, not just you. So when you're building the presentation, guys, the things that you think are minutia and obvious are actually very interesting to your audience. So Kevin, the field is blank. Literally, what do we need to have to show up to get yards? Like literally, what needs to be there?
If you're talking, are you talking about a game plan?
Game plan.
Yeah, because
about a game plan.
You don't. When you coach football and you go to the game, if you don't have a plan, you're just shooting from the hip. You're not going to be successful most of the time, which is the same thing in business.
Tell me more about a game plan. What does it do, and why is it important?
Yeah, so a game plan not only gives you options as far as where you are on the field, it tells you what plays work best against the opponent that you're playing. It tells you what plays work best when you're on the 20-yard line versus the 30-yard line of the opponent. They call it the red zone. Your red zone plays. It gives you all that in front of you, so that you're not having to think. Because the one thing that you don't want to do is when you're actually playing the game, whether you're a coach or whether you're a player, you don't have time to analyze and think. It's time to do. By that time,
hold on. This is so good. Okay, go ahead. It's time to do.
It's time to do. It's time to take action at that point. The action will dictate what your next step is, but if you planned accordingly, you already have that contingency in place. So, in relative to business, it's the same thing. If you just go out, I'll take realtors, for example, because that's one of the fields that I coach in. If you're a realtor and you just go out and start knocking doors haphazardly, or you just hold an open house and you just put some signs in the yard, but you don't actually have a strategy to bring business or bring people in so you can start having conversations, then you're just, it's like shooting a shotgun, or it's just like closing your eyes and trying to shoot a basketball. It's just not you're going to make it once in a while, but more times than not, it's not going to work for you.
Beautiful. Kevin, part of the reason I think that I love where we can go with this presentation is, I think the best way to explain something is to explain anything else but that thing. So because we're using football to explain business, it will allow people to get business so much deeper. So I
think Jesus did something like that.
Yeah, right? So I'm going to give you an analogy of how this could play out and how literally I would say to teach this. So if we're going to win this game, one of the things we need is a game plan. And the way you said it, Kevin, was so great. If you have no plan, you're shooting from the hip. Options, a game plan lets you know what options to use, what plays work best and when to use them based upon where you are. Dude, it's so good because people will get it. Like, oh, if I'm in this situation and this down and distance, these set of plays are best. If my opposition has this formation, then these plays are best. And it lets people realize they probably really don't have that in their business. Gotcha. Most people have no idea of a game plan for their business. They don't know what to do when it's fourth and long. They don't know what their most consistent thing is. They don't know what to do when the economy, i.e. the defense in this case, isn't another business, but it's the economy is set up a certain way, or when it's a certain season of the year and people are getting tighter with money, or when it's a certain season of the year and people are really spending money. Are the entrepreneurs or the people in your audience, do they know what to do? So this is so great. And then what you tied it into that was really beautiful. And what we want to do in our presentations, guys, is we want to make our presentations educational. We also want to make our presentations highly, highly, highly motivational. And so what this does is so you don't have to analyze and think. It's time to do. It's time to take action. So when we're saying do, take action, we want to leave our people who are watching our presentation like ready to run through a wall. So that's what's going to get them into that state. But the other thing you did that was beautiful is you said you don't have time to analyze and think. Because I think for so many entrepreneurs, this right here is the death of their business. Now, I'm not saying there's not a time for it, but I'm saying for most entrepreneurs, they do too much of this right here. Thinking.
I agree.
So when I did a keto, I was doing a keto class once, and my sensei said to me, "How do you think you did?" I said, "I think I did okay." Next guy, "How do you think you did?" I says, "I don't think I did good." Next guy, "How do you think you did?" "I think I did good." Next guy, "How do you think you did?" "I think I did bad." And my sensei looks at us all and he goes, "If you think you did bad, you failed." And we're all like, and he goes, "If you think you did good, you failed." And we're like, and he goes, "If you think, you failed." And so the point is not that we don't think, but this goes into the game plan. And this is how you get to tie, oh my gosh, this is so good for you selling coaching programs. Are you writing notes or just watch the replay? Ready? Oh, this is so good. Like, I feel it when I know it's going to sell, I get like goosebumps. Oh, this is so hot. And this is what you would say from stage. Are you going to create your game plan during the game? No, during the game, you're playing the other team. Now, you might adjust on the fly, but having the game plan and your strategy lets you adjust on the fly. So the time to scout the other team isn't during the game. It's when. When do you want to scout the other team? Ahead of time. When do you want to create your game plan? Ahead of time. When do you want to create your strategies? Ahead of time. When do you want to get your plays in place and practice? Ahead of time. So if you need to do all of that ahead of time, when do you think it's time to work on your game plan? During the game or ahead of time? And that's why you want to say yes to my coaching program so we can start working on your game plan today so that you're ready for the next competition. Man, that's freaking hot. I don't know if that lands for you.
Boom. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm ready to go, coach. Put me in.
Put me. You guys, and if you're watching this, you guys, I hope it doesn't land like, ooh, hey, I'm great. I just get excited when I hear what's going to sell. It's like, ooh, it's going to help. So now, okay, so we talked about game plan. So now let's keep building this thing. And I'll save this so you can see it. Now let me clear it. Clear. Boom. All right. So now pretend these yard markers are still up here, you guys. What's next that we need to have in order to win this game? So we have a game plan. What do we probably not have yet, though, that we need? And you guys, the reason Kevin is stumped is because I'm asking him something that's so darn apparent to him that it's like too obvious. And so I'm leaving it open-ended because, one, I want to – as a coach, I believe the more open-ended we can leave our questions, the better our coachees and the persons we're working with will come up with awesome stuff. The other thing is I want to know what he's going to say. So, Kevin, if you have a game plan, what else do we need to have in order to move the ball down the field?
You got to have the right personnel on the field.
The right personnel. Say a little bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got to. There's different formations. There's different formations for different plays and situations, and so you got to make sure that everybody's in the right place and that they know the plays, that they're informed of what they're supposed to do. So it's even though you have a play and you have a game plan, the execution of that is really, which is, conversion and business. That's really where the rubber meets the road. I used to tell my players all the time that I can create the perfect play, but if it's not executed, or if one guy decides to take off a play, or then I can't create a play like that. I can't create a play to take into account when someone doesn't show effort, when they don't actually do what they're, give what they're supposed to give.
This is really good.
And it's funny because these are the conversations I have all the time with my coaching clients that I have right now. But like you said, it comes as the questions, as they answer their problem, then it's very easy to relate it to, sports, because the reality is that sports is just a window into how life really works, the lessons you learn.
Perfect. So you could talk about, you got to have players. And I think you did that. I don't need to recap it. I think you just did that great. And then you did a beautiful piece. I don't know if you're doing this on purpose, Kevin, or if it's just kind of coming out of you, but you did a really gorgeous thing where right here, you tied in the motivation as well. You brought the motivational aspect to it. And typically, if you think about your ideal room, you're going to be sitting in front of a room full of achievers. You're going to be sitting in front of or standing, speaking in front of a room full of people who want to be achievers, people who are typically self-motivated and or want to be more motivated. So when you say this, I can create the perfect play, but it doesn't work if someone takes a play off. Part of them is going to think about their employees who've taken a play off, but a bigger part of them is going to think about themselves. And they're going to be like, oh, man, my company can't win if I take a playoff. And so you're going to be like, oh, getting that part of their heart that like wants to be great and just totally going, be great, be great, be great. Turn this thing up, turn this thing up. Is this making sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's exactly, you're exactly right.
Cool. Now, what's the next thing we need? And it's on the paper in front of you. And it is not obvious that we need to move the ball down the field. We have a game plan, and it's probably within the context of game plan. It's probably right next to game plan. Right next to game plan.
You need to play?
Yes, we need plays. So tell me more about plays.
Yeah, so like I said before, you have all these different plays that you can run. Pass plays, you can run right, left, up the middle, you can run heavy on one side, you can triple on the other side. So there's all sorts of plays that you can do and schemes based off of your opponent. And this is where I would interject that what I relate to a lot of my clients about when we talk a little bit about this, although it's not as in depth because you're pulling a lot of stuff out that I don't normally say, but is that your opponent, because your opponent is yourself and your own history and hangups, that play is going to be different for everyone. So someone who, again, I'm going to reference real estate, but someone who loves to do open houses because they like face-to-face conversation may be terrible on the phone, but someone would pound the phones for leads, but couldn't hold an open house because they don't like that face-to-face. So it's when I was in the football coaching world, you had all these different coaches that would run these plays, these schemes, as we call them, based off their own personality and based off their own ability for risk. I was a high-risk coach, so I would run plays that were very high-risky, but when they paid off, it was great TV, so to speak, even though it wasn't on TV.
Gotcha.
But you got coaches who run 4 plays and say, stop me. And so
in this case, for our analogy, our audience members are the coaches. In other words, they need to build a playbook based on their personality.
Yeah, I mean, they need to build a playbook around, because most of the people I'm going to coach are probably going to have a team or some type of, support, admin support. Their business is going to be big, not always, but that's probably what they're striving for. So
for instance,
let me recap what you're saying, or not recap it, but chip in to make sure we're on the same page. I was just talking to, so like Diane is my assistant, and Missy's helping us do copywriting. And something we've been talking about is I want them to set up the business. So all I have to do is show up and speak and be great and live in my gifting and like work with people like you and make sales calls and speak and do webinars, and they handle everything else. And if they can, and so for me, the winning play for me to make sales is speaking and presenting. And then going back to what we've just put together so far, you said have the right players. So that means I need people over here in the players quadrant that are people who can really like do the copywriting for me, or set up the webinar for me, or do the billing or the customer service, so that I'm freed up to do my portion. Like and that's one of the things too that, this is really good too, because this plays into like coaching solopreneurs and up. When you're playing every position on the field, it's really exhausting. And when you literally imagine someone trying to play 11 positions, you can see them running around like crazy and they're going to get exhausted, which ties to how can you outsource? How can you team up? How can you find people to help you out so that you can start giving away as much as you can so that you're in your sweet spot, which then takes me, I want to kind of go backwards for a second, Kevin, because it's some ideas are just popping in. So like this now takes me back to over here with the right players. What's your position? So, I mean, as a business owner, we're kind of CEO, owner, coach, and all that. But on the field, if we're still going to be one of the players on the field, people need to know what they're best at. Are they running back? Are they receive? How could you tell what position a player should play?
We put them, well, see, that's a funny story too, because what I coached primarily was private school. So we didn't have access. We didn't have an influx of kids every year. So we actually had to really get good at evaluating talent. And even though they may have said they would play one position, when we evaluated their talent, it was like, well, yeah, you could play that, but you could play a much better, a higher role at this position. And that was kind of my specialty in football coaching, was I could identify where the talent needed to be. And that was really a lot of the reason why I was successful, because everybody that I played against had the same problem, is they had a whole bunch of linemen that would come into the school, but they didn't have any running backs. So you had to evaluate who would be the best for that position, regardless of what they thought, because the reality is that you're playing a game to, at the end of the day, you're playing a game to win. In the business world, you're playing a game to win. And the game you're playing is your life, and the life you want to build around you and your family. And you lose that one, and there's a lot of regret at the end of that life. So you don't want to get that wrong. So you need people, you need coaches, you need people in your life to help you evaluate what you're good at, and then maximize that, and then bring other players in, just like we did on the football field.
You need coaches to evaluate, maximize, and utilize what you are good at, which ties in even more, have a coach, which you're not saying it, but you're saying it, hire me to be your coach. And the way we want to, this is great information that no matter what will benefit them. Well, what happens when we teach people and we say, you want to have a coach to evaluate, maximize, and utilize, the audience members are going like this. I don't know if you guys can see me. I'll make sure you guys can see me. When we teach them something like you want to have a coach to evaluate, maximize, and utilize, the audience members will be like this. Where do I find that coach? How do I find someone to evaluate me? What do I do to evaluate? How do I know what my real talents are? And then in your offer, what you could put together, Kevin, is a part of your coaching program is your, like I know a lot of churches today have like a spiritual assessments inventory type thing. Come up with something similar where you're going to help them figure out what their real talents are. What position should they be playing while they're still on the field? And then I think what we're looking at too is, I think most entrepreneurs start as one of the players on the field, and the better they can be, the better their career, the more money they're going to make. with an eye towards we want to teach them how to win the game, so then maybe they can move into coaching, i.e. they can move into running the business but not just being involved in the day-to-day, with an eye towards ownership, where that business is now one asset they own that someone else runs that frees them up to then buy other assets as well and be involved as long as it's fun to be involved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I would say there's a prime example of that in the football realm, which is Elway. He started off as a player, then he over the years he became what we call a player coach. He was a coach on the field. He called his own plays. He knew all the different nuances because he had so much experience, but he was still playing. Then eventually he stepped into ownership because he was able to elevate himself to that level. Now I would say the only difference is that you would definitely, because we're all, most of the people we talk to are entrepreneurs and they're building some business of some sort, that, yeah, they're going to have to be the coach on organizing it. But as it grows, then you're right. You're definitely going to step into an ownership role where you're not in the day-to-day.
That's awesome. I love it. So, and this is where you can start to call back to what you've taught already. So let's look. Elway, do you know what Elway's measurements were by any chance?
No, I don't. He wasn't a huge guy, but
he wasn't a huge guy, right? So how would Elway's career have gone if he had tried to be a left tackle?
He would not have been in the NFL.
Exactly. And so we have a lot of people that were actually made to be quarterbacks that are trying to play left tackle. But then you also have these guys like Munoz and other people who played left tackle that would have been a horrible quarterback or running back. And they were some of the best in the world at what they did, and they made a ton of money, and now that's freed them up to pursue other things. So that's part of what we're going to teach people is you got to know your position. So let me go back to this, and then we got to have players and plays. So the big three things, let me save this again for you. Save, and now let me clear it. So the big three things I've heard so far is we need to have plays, players, and a game plan. If you have those three things, if you have the right plays that are tailored to your players, if you have the right players who do what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to do, they're diligent, and you have a game plan that gives you strategy that's pre-done so you know when you're in the heat of the battle, you know the best move to make. If you have those three things, are you moving that ball down the field?
We are moving that ball down the field.
What could stop
as long as the execution happens?
Boom. Execution. What else could stop us? Execution.
You could have misdiagnosed your opponent. Misread them. They're bigger, stronger, faster than you thought they were. Weather could do. In football, weather could have a mishap. So
Perfect.
your climate.
Cool. So, hey, and this is just business. In business, if we don't execute, we're going to get stopped. Sometimes we misread what's going on in society. We misread what our prospects want. We have mishaps. We make mistakes. And things happen. So those could stop us. Barring those, we're moving down the field. So here's what I'm picturing for your screen. So, like, there's a 20-yard line marker. Got to go back to my horrible handwriting. Sorry. But there's like a 20-yard line marker here. And like a 30-yard line. And then you talk about, so you're going to run plays. And then what happens is on the screen, there's an animation. So the 30 moves over and the 20 moves over and the 40 moves over so that it looks like the ball is moving down the field. So the ball kind of stays in the same place on the screen, but the screen moves. So it looks like the ball is moving down the field. So now what it would look like is, and you could teach a couple of concepts, and as you're teaching a concept, the ball moves down the field, So now, the ball's at the 50, and then it goes 40, 30, and then you score a touchdown, right? So then we score a touchdown, and we talk about, okay, so we scored a touchdown. Is the game over? No. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition from right here here's the three things you need to win the game, kind of a tangible. But when you score that one touchdown, and this is what some people do in business, they just start celebrating, and they're like, woo, I scored, and they quit paying attention to the bigger game. And
Right.
this is where you get to come into your motivation and stuff. How long is that game?
4 quarters in football.
It's a 4-quarter game, right? So how long do they need to keep playing?
They need to keep playing until the end of the game, which is the end of 4 quarters. Till you see the 00 on the scoreboard.
So now we can move into what's the mindset to have them win the game. Does that make sense? So we'll show
Right.
they just scored a touchdown. So now what's the mindset that they can apply that's going to carry them through the rest of the 4 quarters?
Well, one of the concepts is being consistent.
Okay.
And then, I call it perseverance, but that's probably the same as consistent. You've got to be tough. You've got to know that there are going to be obstacles that are going to come in your way throughout the game. Hardly any of my games ever went exactly by the game plan, but you've also got to have, you've got to be able to adjust throughout the game.
Cool. So they just scored a touchdown. Should they – now, here's what I personally believe. I think celebrating is great as long as it's not, gets a penalty. And when I teach speakers is I want them to celebrate after they speak, no matter how much they sell or whatever. I want them to celebrate that they put in their effort. Is it okay to celebrate when you score a TD, to, like, get together with the team, like, yeah, we did the score?
Yeah, and I teach this to my coaching clients, but this was how it used to be in football was we expect, we're high-fiving, but as we score more, the celebration gets bigger. And as we win the game, you don't celebrate a win. You don't celebrate at the same level like when you win a game versus when you just score a touchdown. Just like you don't celebrate like when we won state championship. That was the biggest celebration I ever had with the boys because it had everything that we wanted to accomplish at that point was accomplished. There was nothing else left to be done. That's a different celebration than when you score from 5 yards out for the first game of the season.
Man, that's hot, actually. That's really sexy because now you're teaching these CEOs, hey, have bigger parties when you have bigger wins for your employees. So now let's go back to this. So now they've scored. Should they just take off the rest of the game? No. So instead, what should the mindset be next time they get the ball?
First down, 4 yards. Do the same thing.
Do the same thing. Beautiful. 4 yards.
If it works, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So if the game plan's working, we don't adjust. We don't have to.
And how often do you see entrepreneurs, and I'm sure there's people watching this Facebook Live, who things go well and they're like, let me try this other thing, or they get bored, or they're like, well, now I do believe when you have a substantial enough lead, you could take some risks maybe and like throw deep, but then also you're losing your game plan, giving the other chance. What's your thoughts on that? Like,
So like I said, I was what they considered a high risk coach. So I had multiple formations. I had multiple trick plays. And the great thing about that is when you do start to get up and you see your opponent, there were tells that you'd see your opponent kind of go back on their heels and they'd start to grab their knees because they were winded. Then you would start running some of the more high risk plays because you had the margin in between. If it didn't work, you weren't losing the game because of that. But you very rarely started the game unless the scouting was appropriate to do so. You very rarely started the game with those type of plays because to get behind, just like you would get behind in business, if you get behind, it's harder to climb out of that hole. Same thing in a football game.
Beautiful.
You want to score as quick as possible, and you want to, that's what I talk about with my clients is that, we develop a game plan so that they are at maximum effort when they first start, whatever it is in their business that they need to start. What is the play that's going to get us the maximum amount of return as quick as possible, but it's sure. It's a sure bet.
Perfect. And I love that, scoring as quick as possible. And business to me means making money. And the faster
absolutely.
we get people making money, the better they'll be. Cool. So now let's go to some more mindset. So is the intention to just play the first quarter, or we already said it's to play till double zeros, right? Well,
right.
in football, there's 4 quarters. In the year, there's 4 quarters. And I think what some entrepreneurs do is they get up early, not get up as in wake up, but they get a lead, and then they start to take time off. So their income does this thing, as opposed to keep pouring it on, keep pouring it on, keep pouring it on. Let's keep pouring it on. That's what we really want to do, is pour it on, pour it on, pour it on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm going to reference real estate. One of the biggest mistakes realtors make, and it's actually a running. I don't consider it a joke, because I take stuff like this personal, because you're dealing with the game is your life. And realtors, because they're not business, most realtors that come into the realty world, they're not business owners by training. They're learning how to be business owners. And so what they do is they hit it hard the first quarter. Okay, so they're out there and they're doing everything they're supposed to. They're running the plays they're supposed to run. They're running, they're tight, and they have success. Well, then all of a sudden they start coasting. They get behind by the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, which in most markets is the slowest quarter of the year, then they try to catch up 20 or 30 points in that fourth quarter, and almost never do. And that's why they're out of the business in 2 to 3 years, because their game plan, if they had just kept doing what they would have done doing in the micro world of real estate, as far as the way the market goes, if they would do the same thing in the second, third quarter that they did in the first quarter, they actually get more business in the second, third quarter, because of the market itself heats up, especially down south.
Cool. So the way I would encourage you to do this when you're doing the actual presentation is keep the analogy in football terms first,
right,
and then go to business. So the way I would do it speaking is to go, so some teams get up early and then they take time off, and then the other team sneaks in, and then in the fourth quarter they're down by 20 and they're trying to make up 20 points. Meanwhile, their mojo's gone and they're tired because it's the end of the game and they've been slacking, so they don't have their high energy. Is that the way to be effective, is trying to come from – but now, can you do it every now and then? Sure, and it makes a great story. But wouldn't you rather win a lot more games and then talk about the real estate? Does that make sense? So first use your metaphor, then go to – I think it's more powerful for people somehow when they don't see it coming. When they hear the story and then at the end of the story they go, oh, that's how that applies to my life. I think that gives the real heart. Boom. So now we've talked mindset. We talked about stay in it the whole time. The next possession, do the thing. So this, by the way, Kevin, will be great. So here's what I would have you put in while you are teaching, and it is I would encourage you to find actual stories from your coaching that fit. So, for instance, when we were talking about players, talk about a player that came in and thought he was one place and was failing, and you recognized the right position he should play, and now he's rocking. Talk about a player but you don't want to make them sound mean. Maybe tell a story from your own life where you took a play off and it didn't work because you took a play off. Talk about another time when everybody clicked and how perfectly it worked. Talk about another time where you had done your game plan ahead of time, so in the heat of battle, the other team made some adjustment, but you knew what to do because you had put the time in ahead of time to come up with your strategy.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Then you're going to teach all this stuff on the right mindset, and then find stories for each thing. Weave stories with each concept. I really love to have a concept and then a story and then a case study, or a story that is a case study. Like, for instance, in my presentation, I talk about when I'm selling my speaker training services, I talk about the importance of having a good opening and that your goals in the opening. And then I tell a story about how I was in Houston. This guy, Greg, had hired me to do a presentation for his people in Houston. And he had seen me speak previously about a year prior. And so I'm in Houston hanging out with him. He leans over at me. He goes, Jase, I got to tell you something. The first time I saw you speak, 10 minutes into your presentation, I leaned over to my business manager and I said, I don't know what this guy's selling, but whatever it is, we're buying. So that cements what I said about the power and the way to write an opening by sharing a win. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what I encourage you to do is sprinkle these stories. And then the last part of your presentation, or it doesn't have to be in this order, although I do think this is a very, very good order. The last part will be what to do when things go wrong. In other words, my dog's going to bark just so you guys know. What to do when things go wrong. So in other words, when you get intercepted, when a player fumbles, Kevin, I just lost your video. When someone, when a player like has a lack of effort, right? So,
Right.
Kevin, you're off screen. I'm just seeing your fireplace.
I know I'm plugging you in.
Okay. Oh, you're getting low battery. So, tell me about this, Kevin. What do you do if your quarterback throws an interception? What do you do with that quarterback in that moment? Do you yell at them and tell them what a jerk they were? Or what do you do with your quarterback when they throw an interception?
Yeah, so, I mean, depends on the quarterback. Depends on how he threw it. But no, seriously, anytime – the reality is not one player is ever going to affect the outcome of the game if you really look at it. It's one play. It's just one – and I always used to, one of the things that you say often is just shake it off. We'll get them next time. And yeah.
But you made a joke, but I think you were pointing to something. You said how they threw it. So if we translate that to business, I think what you were really saying is how did they execute? And then you're going to probably pick apart, not pick apart in a mean way, but evaluate what was the mindset that went into that performance.
Right. No, that's probably a good way of saying it.
And then at the end of it, you're going to encourage them and tell them they're going to do better next time, right?
Yep.
So those are great tools for the business owner to use with their people. And then let's go to this. What do you do if a player has a lack of effort? How do you handle that?
So
try and keep it mostly clean.
So, and I was clean as a coach. My players used to always comment the fact that they knew when I was really mad because once a year I'd say a cuss word. So I actually took a little pride in the fact that they didn't hear it more than once a year. Yeah. So I mean, if they're not giving the effort they need, the reality is that if you had a backup, you probably put the backup in. But if they didn't have a backup, which we did a lot of times, you'd have to get in their head and pull them off the sideline, and when they would come off the field, and you'd have to talk to them about what they're, what are they thinking? What's their motivation? Why are they, what's going on out there that's keeping them from being the best that they could be, kind of speak.
So is that stuff you would encourage people to have and do with their employees?
Absolutely. If you don't, and this is why I love sports and analogies into the business world, because I mean, it's a direct tie. People are motivated for different reasons, and they're demotivated for different reasons. And so you have to find out as a leader, as a coach, you have to find out what motivates them, and then what are the reasons in their life. Because a lot of times it may be things that are out of your control that you don't know. I mean, I've had instances in my business that, I have an employee who would come in and they would be, all down, and they wouldn't be performing at their best, and then come to find out their mother passed. So those are, you're able to adjust. If you're a coach, you're able to adjust to that, or a leader, and be able to give them what they need to get back where they need to be, whether that's comfort, whether it's encouragement.
Totally. So I love it. And then maybe there's a lack of effort. Sometimes a player needs to be yanked, right?
They need to be what? Pulled
out of the game, yanked.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there's ways to do that effectively with yourself and your team members. So then So then you'll teach this stuff, this mindset stuff about what to do when things go wrong, right? And then
and let me just throw this in because there's a saying that I use. I even use it to this day. But it's basically when you're not right in the head, when you're not thinking the way that you need to be thinking, you need to get your mind right with ball. So, which just means you need to get your head in the game. You know, you need to, whatever it takes for you to get your mind right with the ball, with the thing in front of you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the next, you know, you're not thinking about the end of the game. You're thinking about the next play. Just worry about the next play.
That right there is beautiful because so many entrepreneurs get overwhelmed. And if they could just focus on the next play, that would give them so much peace. So then, I think by itself, that is a super compelling presentation. You know, it needs prettying up, right? But how is this landing for you, all of this? Like, how's this feeling to you?
This was a very cathartic, being able to get it out and actually have someone that walks through. It's great. No, it's a lot of stuff that was in my head that just, you know, having someone like you actually being able to walk through with it and understands what needs to happen in that presentation is great.
Cool. And I'll share with you an idea that I've been mulling over, and I've used it a couple times when I've made offers. I think it really fits for you though. And that is, all right, so in business, we have this game we're playing. And actually, so let's just say each year is a game, right? But there's something missing in business that we have in football that allows the team to get ready for the season. And what is that? I'm putting you on the spot to see if you come up with it. What do we have in football that's missing by and large in business? Because when does the season begin and end in business?
Most people, they think it begins at the first of the year and ends at the end of the year.
Yeah, when is it really? But it's more like just one never-ending game for most people,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Which can also burn people out because if they don't have goals or a way to win, when people don't have a way to win the game, they will by and large quit playing the game.
Yeah. So one of the ways of it is this: it's you've got a season. Your season is your season of life, and so you've got many games that you play inside a season, and so you know. But to prepare for the season, prepare for that life that you're trying to build, you know. But prepare for the season in football. It takes the off season. It takes spring training. It takes summer workouts. It takes 2-a-days, and that all happens before we even start. Before anybody sees us in our uniform.
Yes, and yes. That is exactly it. One more time. It takes say it again, please.
It takes spring training. It takes the off season. It takes spring training. It takes summer workouts. It takes 2-a-days.
And where in business? So if people don't know what this means, explain what each 4 of these are, please, just so people don't.
Yeah. So the off season is like you have 2 seasons. You have the off season, which is the preparation for, because if you don't get prepared for the actual season that you're about to come in, you'll either come in hard and then burn out, or you'll never be able to actually do what you want to do because you're not ready. You're not in shape. You're not physically where you need to be. And you're not mentally where you need to be. Spring training is about starting.
Hold on.
That's where you actually start.
Kevin, hold on.
Yeah.
Dude, this right here, can you see me highlighting this? I don't know if it shows up.
Yes.
All right. If you go to make your offer and all you say is this, it will crush. Like if Kevin was selling a 2-day boot camp or 6-month coaching, I think, frankly, Kevin, what I'm hearing, and this is what I was leading you towards, in business, people don't have an off season. So when and where are people training? Where are they prepping? And then when you say, here's off season, it helps you prep for the season, because if you don't prep, you're going to burn out, or you'll never do what you were capable of doing, and you'll never do what you want to do because you were not ready physically or mentally. Boom, there's your whole close. And then when you say, I have available for you the Kevin Harris preseason, off-season training coaching program, and the implication is you're going to unplug from your business and we're going to train you up. We're going to get you ready physically, mentally. We're going to get the game plan ready so that as you go into this next season, you will win the next season. That is freaking will sell like crazy.
I love that.
Seriously, that will sell like hotcakes. And just so you guys who are watching understand, when I say sell, it might sound mercenary, but I really believe this. Nothing happens until people buy, and they buy bigger than they've ever bought before. Like when I was ready to change my life, I signed up for a 2-year leadership program. And granted, I was still doing my life during it, but it's interesting. I finished that program about 3 years ago, and as my business is growing again, I'm using all this training that I got. And if I hadn't have taken that training, I don't think my business would be doing as well as we're doing now. So my point on this is, and those of you watching the live, we'll probably be wrapping up in about 10 minutes. My point on this is we want to sell them on the concept of unplugging and training now. Oh, it's so good, Kevin. This is so good. All right, spring training. And to finish my thought about sales. When I say this will sell like crazy, what I'm really saying is this will inspire people to do what it takes to actually have the life they want. Because
that's all we're selling. We're selling. I mean, the reality is it's called a sale, but the reality is we're changing a life.
That's why I love you. That's why we get along. That's it right there. Because that's what sales. You guys say that again, please, Kevin. People need to get this.
I said that it's called a sale, but what we're really doing is changing a life.
Give you a big virtual hug for that. You guys, people that say, I think I'm going to start saying this to people. People who say I'm not good at sales, I think I'm going to start saying, oh, you mean you're not good at helping people change their lives? Because if you look at this, if you're someone watching this, and I want to teach about sales while we're talking about your offer, Kevin, if someone's listening to this call, like the way I receive this, you know what you're doing, and you have some. I mean, I want to go to this now. I mean, you don't even have it built, and I want to go, right? I want to go to the off-season training. It's really going to benefit people, and so we're not just selling a thing; we're really selling access to the life they want, and that's just gorgeous. And I think if people listen to you, they get your heart, they get you know what the heck you're talking about. Saying you have a state championship carries a lot of cachet. I mean, you're really selling something that benefits people. And I want people at home to get that. Sales in this context is really just saying, wow, this is going to help a lot of people. That's what I mean by that. And it's good enough that people sitting in the audience will go, here's my hard-earned money. Help me get to the next level. I mean, I love it. So let's go back to this real quick. Just riff real quick. What's spring training 2 days and summer workouts?
Spring training is when you actually begin the work. It's when you're designing the plays, you're running through. You're basically doing a practice run. So this would be in real estate. It would be scripting. You know, you'd start learning your scripts. You'd start learning in inspections. It would be doing your training on how to actually do an inspection. So whatever business that you're talking about. You've got this process which you actually have to learn how to actually do what you're trying to do. That would be spring training.
Cool. Then 2 days?
Summer workouts would be next, but summer workouts would be where you're strengthening, where you're getting faster, stronger, where you're actually becoming the athlete that you want to become. So thus, relative to business, it would be where you're actually becoming that expert. You're memorizing to a level where now you're actually being able to do it without thinking. And then 2 days is when you're putting it all together and you've already created the game plan. You already have what you have as an athlete. You're not going to get any stronger for the season. You're not putting any new plays in. You're deciding what your game plan is going to look like or your season strategy. And then you're starting to practice putting it into you've got scrimmages, you've got all sorts of stuff that you're doing to get ready for that first game. And this is what we always used to say, and it is true, and every coach who's ever been coaching will say the same thing, that championships are won in the off season. They're not won during the games.
Yeah, I mean, this thing sells itself. It's ridiculous. Dude, and I want you to have that huge letters on your PowerPoint, nothing else on the screen, but championships are won in the off season. In this one case, you maybe could do white letters on a red background, because I wanted to just be like, ugh, this is so gorgeous. You guys imagine you're in business and you could get into a retreat. You could prep for the off season. You make sure you don't burn out. You can pull out, and then you begin the work. You design your plays, your practice. And the off season encompasses the other three, or would you consider the off season something separate, or that's like the overall umbrella?
Off season is the mother. The other one is what's in the off season.
Okay, so it's like the umbrella over these.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it's the umbrella.
And here's the other piece of that. Every year your off season changes based off of where you are. Whether if you have a bunch of kids transfer in and they're all fast and 6'3", your off season is going to look drastically different than the year before when all you had was 5'4", 260-pound kids. So when I relate this type of talk to my clients, it's really, that's why you have to do this every year. You have to get into the off season. You have to prep for what you're trying to do.
Do you know why I'm laughing? Because you're selling your continuity right there. You're selling people on coming back year after year after year. It is built in and it's authentic. You're not just – see, one of the things some people do when they build a presentation, they're like, what can we sell them and how can we get them to buy again? We're not doing that. We're saying here's what you literally need. Every year things change. You get new players. There's new stuff going on in the economy. You need a new game. Kevin, I think it would be beautiful if you really could come up with a set time of year. Maybe it's summer. I don't know. To do off-season business prep. Once a year. I mean, have multiple camps, but there's your off-season business prep. And then within it, and then here becomes what I would consider doing, though, is break out the spring training where you're designing the plays, make that its own thing. So here, we're going to have our spring training, for lack of a better phrase, our strategy camp. So here you're going to start to design your plays for your business. You're going to start scripting, summer workouts. And then what this becomes, this is a separate intensive on helping them become faster and stronger, i.e. mentally and emotionally stronger. This could be like a personal development boot camp that you hold. And then 2-a-days, this is part 3 of the off-season game plan. And 2-a-days are where you're going to practice. You're going to have drills. You're going to practice your sales techniques. And you bring them in a room and you drill them on sales techniques. You drill them on speaking. You drill them on management. You drill them on whatever the skills are that they're going to need to win that season. And you could do all of this over like a 4-day intensive, or like do a little piece of each over a 2-day intensive and then expand it or expand it out over a year coaching program. So does it kind of violate the concept of an off season, or does it imply that their season starts next year? Kind of, but people aren't going to worry about that. They're going to get it. So start it off with something like this spring training, and either do all together or do like, here's a 3-4-day boot camp. Here's a 3-4-day boot camp. Here's a 3 or 4-day boot camp. And that's kind of what I do.
And I would tell you the way I've coached in the business world and I have not done it to this level, so this is awesome. But the way I see it is, you can still go to this while you're doing whatever it is you're doing at that time, because the reality is you're not trying to become a great salesperson. You're not trying to become a great business person. You're trying to be the hero in your world. You're trying to build the world that you want around you. And so this, what I coach is not about, we talk about all that, but it's not specifically just sales techniques, because sales techniques get you sales, but that's not really what you're looking for. You're looking for the leverage to be able to take your family on vacation and be able to, have a college fund and be able to do those things. That's the motivation behind it. So this, when I coach, that's always where my heart is, yeah, you got to do this, but you do this by doing this, then you start building that world, or in this case, you start building the season that you're really wanting in your world.
Dude, I love it. So it's like you're the hero for this season of life you want to win. So, for instance, it could be family on vacation season of life. And the way we get there is we win the season. The way we win the season is game. The way we win the game is we have the right plays and players. And this is where we do, depending on where we are, it's not that we won't learn sales tactics. It's just we understand where they now fit into the grander scheme of winning the whole season.
Right.
Man, that's great. This has been a great call, Kevin. And I hope you guys – let me see if there's any questions that I can see on the see if I can pop over to my live and see if there's any questions we can ask. Did this help you, though? Are you more excited about going forth and speaking and sharing this?
Man, I'm stoked. What are you talking about? Where's the next stage? And then I'll be like, I don't have anything right now, but it's coming.
And this is kind of like what we're doing right now is we're following your exact model. You're not on stage yet, so we're doing the spring training for your speaking right now, i.e. we're coming up with your game plan. Actually, I can put your whole thing into terms of my speaker training black belt. We're coming up with your game plan. We're going to script it out. And then we're going to go from the macro down to the micro of teaching you how to walk on the stage, how to walk onto the stage, how to build the PowerPoint, what to do when you get an audience member that heckles you. We're going to go all the way down with all that stuff. All right, let me check over here and see if there's any questions. It's a few minutes. Okay. All right, anybody have questions at home? Anybody? Doesn't look like there are any questions, just people saying it was great. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. Cool. If no questions come through, I'm going to wrap this in a moment. It looks like there's a delay. So, Kevin, do you want to share how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can get on theheroedge.com, thehero, no S, edge.com. And it'll take you to a landing page. It'll collect your information, and then I'll give you a call and we'll talk. If it's a good fit for us to have a conversation and move further.
Awesome. And for me, my big thing I have coming up is June 27 through 29. I'm doing Be Funny, Make Money, where we talk about, the number one fastest way to grow business, public presentations. And within that, our formula, talk about game plan, our formula is laughs times tears equals sales. Because if you don't get them laughing, you don't get them crying, you make no impact. But when you get them laughing, you can feed any info you want. When you get them crying, you get their heart moving, you get their heart opened up. That's when you can really touch their lives and move their pocketbook. So if you're interested in more information on Be Funny, Make Money, just comment, put a post in the comments below wherever you're watching this, and one of my team will get in touch with you guys. Kevin, thank you for joining us on Speakeasy with Jase.
Man, thank you so much. I look forward to us continuing this down the road and our next event together.
Awesome. I hope to see you in Vegas. And then for those of you guys watching, every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. East Coast, Speakeasy with Jase. I don't remember what I'm teaching on the next one. Do you remember? Nope.
Hey, Jase, I'll put in the comments. I'll put in the how to get a hold of me too.
Cool. So on the next call, I'll be teaching something awesome. It won't be as I won't have a dynamic guest like Kevin next week. I think next week is it's actually how to write your opening. It's how to create an opening that really rocks so that people want to buy more from you. Thanks for being on, Kevin. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.